Well, thank you very much, Rick and Mike. It's great to be here, and as one of the three hardworking members of Parliament for. Yes. Anyway, it's great to be here, and thank you also, Stephen Brooks, for arranging this and for making this work. Stephen and I go back far enough that probably I won't ask him to tell any stories of the old days, but we go back an awful long time. And if you're really maybe after the Friday dinner, I'd suggest maybe after a couple of stiff drinks, you might want to ask Stephen how far back we go, and really it's been great. And his work here, and really the Chamber's work, has been outstanding. As you know, as Minister of Transportation, one of the things that you learn early on in so many sectors involved and so on, but the heavy reliance that we place on industry and collaborative work with industries like yours, it would be impossible for us to have the expertise and the amount of detail necessary to pull it all together. So we really depend on the Chamber's outstanding work on marine issues generally. There's close collaboration throughout members of the industry, and my department bears the fruit of that. So thank you for your work and your willingness to be part of that. I thank you, Admiral, as well, for your remarks. The only thing I could think of as you were talking, though, is that you said that you were talking about the and it's in my remarks too, to talk about the ballast water thing. And as you said, it was something that we talked about last year, and it's something we'll talk about this year. But really, we're not going to talk about it next year, right? Like we're gonna get it done before. Okay, that's okay. We're on the same page then, and I think we're fine. Anyway, this has already been mentioned by several people, talking about the reduction of the 25% duty on imported general cargo vessels and tankers. I think it was a lot of good work Mike and Rick and others did on a political level to take that message in. It was one of the early messages I got as Minister of Transport, that we need to renew the fleet on the Great Lakes especially, but in general, Canada needs to get rid of that tariff problem, and was pleased that the Minister of Finance was in agreement. A lot of work went into that, as you know. But I think the important thing, that I think that one of the messages that comes through on that is that it's not just about, and it's already been mentioned, it's not just about the shipping industry or the people that work in it. It's really what members of Parliament especially bring to the table is that when that happens, good things happen in my greater community. Opportunities happen, significant synergies happen. And without that, the opposite. So it's not just about your industry. Your industry is really a bellwether industry about what else is happening in the country generally. So a healthy, profitable, growing and renewing industry is important for the country because it means jobs, and a bunch of decision makers need to know well in advance and for years to come that this is how you're going to manage the industry. And that cancellation of that 25% tariff was symbolic of that, and became not just symbolic, but is an important part of what's going to be necessary, especially on the Great Lakes, as we move forward with a revitalized and renewed industry. We've made a lot of investments on infrastructure through our economic action plan. Everywhere I go in the country, it's been good to hear what the impact of those investments have made. All familiar with the Asia-Pacific Gateway and Corridor Initiative, some of the key investments there, and importantly also some of the coordinating work, again, with the marine industry, but more than that, with all of the stakeholders being part of a decision-making matrix, if you will, and an investment matrix of billions of dollars that have helped move goods more quickly, and have helped us really carry our message that if you want to serve the North American market, a part of that is having this a good strong marine sector that can deliver the goods on time, whether it's short work or overseas work, the ports, the internal waters. All of it's key to making things work for both sides of the border, and that's why we've been keen to make those investments across the country. I mentioned the partnership approach that we've taken. I think particularly on environmental issues. I mean, it's working through the IMO and working through with the Commerce or the Chamber of Marine Commerce, working with the other stakeholders. We all understand the need and want to do a good job on environmental issues, and because the This isn't a static. Most of this isn't an industry that sits on a plant site. This is an industry in motion. So, working together to get those common rules and regulations in place is critically important, and it brings the certainty you need, and it also gets the job done on the environment. We all want to do the right job. What we can't tolerate is a myriad of standards and different regulations that just make it kind of a boar's nest of problems. We want to get the job done, and that means working together as much as possible for that harmonized approach. And of course, the international cooperation on a number of fronts. I mentioned the IMO and other things, but certainly, right up to the senior levels. I think you mentioned Admiral, but when I would talk to Secretary LaHood, for example, he's fully aware of the ballast water situation in New York City. There's engagement at the most senior levels, and with our American friends, and so people soon understand the impact on us, but also, of course, the impact on both sides of the border. And again, I just think we don't have a greater friend than our American friends. And what's that old story? They're our best friends, whether we like it or not. Thankfully, we like it, and it's a great relationship, and it means we're able to do many of these things together. Overall, the economic action plan that we've been coming through here in Canada has had some pretty good effects overall on the economy, not just in your sector, but in many sectors. We've put a lot of money. I think we've levered overall some $63 billion worth of investment in infrastructure across the country. A lot of that has to do with improving the movement of goods and coordinating the role between different levels of government and the private sector to make sure that we help to create jobs and stimulate the economy across the country. We've done pretty well overall. We've whether it's investments in Belledune, New Brunswick, Montreal, Vancouver, Port of Sept-Îles, smaller ones, in the Port of Windsor, all along the way, investments in the Seaway, different things that we've been able to pull together. All of it has been part and parcel of a package of investments that we've been able to make that has overall contributed to the economic health of our country. We've during I'm not telling you folks anything you don't know, but when the slowdown hit, it wasn't really a slowdown. It was called a precipitous drop, at the least, and maybe a cliff that we all kind of felt we were going over. And the sense of urgency that seized the government at the time was that we simply had to intervene. There was not only a national but an international effort to do so. Since we lost about 400,000 jobs in Canada, which is a pretty big hit for us at the time, although much less than many other countries faced. The actions of the government and the response of industry to that has helped us recover all of those jobs and more. We're now back. We have more employment now than we did at our best year in 2008. So we've recovered some 460,000 jobs from our low point, which is a great tribute to the industry and to the collaborative effort here in Canada. I always think that we have to find ways to maintain that momentum. None of us on any side of the border or in any government have the kind of money to continue that kind of spending indefinitely. The taxpayers won't put up with it. It's not sustainable in the long run. So really what we need to do and what we try to do is create the conditions, create the best conditions possible for the private sector to pick up the slack and be profitable and sustainable in the long term. That's why investments in ports and in border facilities and in transportation infrastructure, we believe in our government, is a key part of creating those conditions so that commerce can take place. And we don't believe profit, by the way, is a bad word. We actually think it's a great word, and that's why we've been reducing our tax levels on corporations in the country. And although there's a lot of pressure to reverse that, and some parties would do that, it's interesting that while we reduce the tax rates and are being able to woo some business to Canada, reducing those tax rates, we've actually increased our take from the corporate world with a reduced tax level. It's funny how that works. More economic activity at a lower tax rate is better to us than small amount of economic activity than tax the rear ends off everybody. So it's just the way we're going to approach it. We're not changing. This continues. In fact, there's more tax relief coming next year, January 1st. We'll have the most competitive tax rate in the G8, and we think that's a great Canadian advantage. Not that we wish our American friends any ill will, of course, but we just think it's a great path forward, and we're going to continue that.